Hare Krishna. Are there any devotees on the call who want to introduce themselves? Okay. Hare Krishna. I welcome all the devotees to our Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call of our Caitanya Caritamrta. And today we are very fortunate to have with us Her Grace Kirtida Sundari Mataji to enlighten on the topic of Caitanya Caritamrta, antya, lila 4.27 onwards. Hare Krishna, Kirtida Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances, all Gauri Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Mataji, for giving your very valuable time and association and enlightening on the topic of antya, lila, Mataji. We are very grateful to you. I now hand over the call to you, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Shama Supriya Mataji, for your very, very warm welcome, beautiful chanting, and welcome everybody. And thank you each and every one of us for giving your valuable time and joining this session. I don't know how fruitful it will be today, but thank you. I'm really grateful to each and every one of you. Okay, so we'll start now. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we are reading from Srimad Caitanya Caritamrta, Antya Lila, chapter 4, entitled Sanatana Goswami Visits Lord Chaitanya. And today we'll start from text 207, and if Krishna allows, then we'll try to end this chapter today. So text 207. Dolayat Prabhu Tandre Vidaya Dila Vrindavane Yekari Bena Sabha Sakhaila. After they saw the Dola Yatra festival, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Sanatana Goswami fully about what to do in Vrindavan and bade him farewell. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhakti Charu Swami Niti Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangam langayate giram yat kripahatam ham vande Shri Guru Dinatari. Okay, I welcome each and every one of you. And I really seek blessings, prayers, wishes from all of you. Please offer your heartfelt prayers so that I can speak something relevant related to this topic. Today the topic is very, very simple, but still, anything related to Krishna, it has to go with the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas. So please just shower your heartfelt prayers, wishes and blessings. Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubhai vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta koti vaishnav vrinda ki jai. Okay, so this verse, after they saw the Dola Yatra festival, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Sanatana Goswami fully about what to do in Vrindavan and then bade him farewell. So yesterday, Preeti Vilasini Mataji covered very beautifully the whole pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sanatana Goswami and Jagannatha Pandit. that I'll not go into detail, but just in few minutes rather, I'll just say that, how Sanatana Goswami was feeling so distressed that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is hugging him, embracing him again and again, in spite of his body being so infectious. So he was very distressed, and then he went to Jagannatha Pandit, and then he sought his advice, and Jagannatha Pandit advised him that, your elder brother has already been advised to go to Vrindavan. Why also you also don't go to Vrindavan and settle there? And so better, just see this Rath Yatra pastime, and after that you can always go to Vrindavan and settle there. In that ways you'll not be near to Mahaprabhu. And then you'll not be so much embarrassed of Mahaprabhu hugging you again and again. And then Sanatana Goswami liked his idea, and he expressed this desire to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that, this is what his desire is. Now he wants to go to Vrindavan. And then it's a beautiful pastime how Lord Chaitanya was so upset, and he chastised Jagannatha Pandit. And then Sanatana Goswami felt so happy that, you are chastising Jagannatha Pandit. That means he's such an intimate devotee for you. And you are being so personal and so formal to me. That means I'm just an outsider. So, this is how also we also think that whenever Guru Maharaj, whenever spiritual master chastises, we should take it as a blessing. That the blessing is coming from the chastisement of a spiritual master. Anyway, and then, Mahaprabhu said that, no, there's a huge logic behind it, why I'm chastising Jagannatha Pandit, and there is nothing that, I am admiring you just because you are an outsider, rather you are also my intimate servant. So this way, it's a huge pastime, and Preeti Vilasni Mataji covered it very beautifully. And then Haridas Thakur also intervened, and he said that Mahaprabhu, it was just your lila that Sanatana Goswami got all that infection on his body, and then, you yourself relieved from all that infections. And finally, Sanatana Goswami's body turned out to be molten gold. So beautiful, because all the infections were gone. So there we stopped yesterday. And then today's verse came that how Mahaprabhu actually instructed Sanatana Goswami to stay with him for full 1 year. And then he said that you can see this Dola Yatra festival, and after that you can always go to Vrindavan. And then Mahaprabhu instructed, Sanatana Goswami what to do in Vrindavan. He gave a couple of instructions that we have already discussed. He gave a couple of instructions, and then finally he told Sanatana Goswami to go to Vrindavan. And what all instructions was given, we have already covered, I think so, in verse number 79 and 80, that he told him that you have to ascertain the basic principles of a devotee, you have to ascertain the basic principles of devotional service, then how you have to excavate all the holy places, the places of pilgrimage that has been lost. Then you have to establish the proper Vaishnava culture, Vaishnava characteristics. You have to establish various centers for the cultivation of love of Krishna, for Krishna Prema, and finally achieve the goal, that is love of Godhead. So these were a couple of instructions that were already being given to Sanatana Goswami by Mahaprabhu. There were 8 instructions. And then, Mahaprabhu, after full 1 year, when they saw this Dola Yatra festival, that is, we have already discussed what is Dola Yatra festival. And after that, Mahaprabhu instructed that now, yes, you are more than welcome. You can leave for Vrindavan. And then Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that at that time, after staying for full 1 year in the association of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sanatana Goswami one day finally he bid farewell to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he decided to go on to his yatra to Vrindavan, but he wants to go via the same path where Mahaprabhu went, via Charikant forest. And then Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that it's very hard for me to describe that moment of separation that Sanatana Goswami was feeling from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It was such a piteous moment that, he said that I don't have any capacity to describe that moment. And so Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he moved forward and he said that Sanatan Goswami decided that I should traverse the same path as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu followed, that is via through Jharkhand. And Sanatan Goswami, remember that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he actually was accompanied by Balabhadra Bhattacharya while he was going through all the different places of Jharkhand. So Sanatan Goswami noted down everything, from Balabhadra Bhattacharya, that, which places that Mahaprabhu visit. So he made sure that I want to visit the same place and want to follow the same route. And then he noted from that Balabhadra Bhattacharya, and to that Prabhupada write that this is the mood of a devotee. A devotee wants to visit that place where Mahaprabhu has stepped in, maybe just for a minute or for an hour or for even for a few minutes. If Mahaprabhu is there, then devotee wants to see and visit that place. That's the mood of a devotee. And so is Sanatan Goswami. He doesn't want to miss even a single place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has spent, even few minutes if he has spent in that place. Sanatan Goswami doesn't want to miss that place. So he very well made a whole note that which were places, what were those places from Balabhadra Bhattacharya, and then Sanatan Goswami ensured that, I'm going to follow the same path and going to stop at same place where Mahaprabhu took halt. And as soon as Sanatan Goswami, he visited the place where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed his pastimes, he immediately, was filled with that ecstatic love for Krishna Prema. That's the potency, that how, when a pure devotee, especially Krishna himself, who is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, stayed, that itself, that place becomes so potent, And so Sanatan Goswami even felt that, and his heart was completely filled with ecstatic love as soon as he was, taking halt in that place where Mahaprabhu was performing his pastimes. And in this way, traveling all those places, visiting all those places, Sanatan Goswami finally reached Vrindavan. And remember, Rupa Goswami, he had already left Jagannath Puri a year before, but he was not able to reach Vrindavan because he followed the route via Bengal. He first visited Bengal, and from then Bengal, he came to Vrindavan. So Sanatan Goswami reached earlier. Rupa Goswami has yet not came to Vrindavan. And why there was a delay, that has been described by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, that Rupa Goswami, because now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Rupa Goswami that finally you have to settle in Vrindavan, and he gave practically the same instructions to cultivate devotional service and attain the pure love of Godhead, and you have to excavate all the holy places of pilgrimage. And then, of course, you have to cultivate various centers where devotees can come and practice devotional service. So practically almost the same instructions were also given by Rupa Goswami. And then Rupa Goswami thought that, okay, now I totally have to follow instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he thought that whatever possessions, whatever little wealth he has, he wants to distribute everything to be divided among all his relatives, members and all. So that's why it took a year for Rupa Goswami, because he stayed in Bengal and then he properly divided whatever money he had, and then he gave it to all his relatives as that they would not feel any inconvenience. That was the mood of Rupa Goswami. So we all know that how Rupa Goswami has divided. He always says that 25% should be given to the relatives, 25% to the Brahmanas, and 25% to the temple, and then rest of the money should be kept for our own selves for emergency purpose. A lot of grahasthas, I have come across who have the same question when they read this, that how we in grahastha life can follow this division of money. Definitely not. It's not possible, because we have so many responsibilities. We have mortgages, we have our home rent, and we have family, we have children, we have to take care. So there are so many things, so definitely it is not possible. So we should not confuse ourselves with what instructions that Rupa Goswami gave, that how to divide his money. Because first of all, we have to understand that Rupa Goswami, he literally divided when he was on his renounced order of life. Okay. At that time, he thought of dividing this money, and the way he did is that 25% to the relatives, to the brahmanas, to the temples, and then finally few for himself, for emergency purposes. And secondly, we should also think that, the money that we are using is also for Krishna conscious activities. Because if we are paying mortgage or we are paying rent for our home which we are in, then we have to understand that this place, we have to have that consciousness that this place where I'm in is not my home, rather it's my deity's home. And then I am doing it for the sake of devotees. So now this thing should not be just in some consciousness and for the sake of saying, rather it should be embedded in our heart that whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm earning is just to take care of family, which is a devotee family, so that I'm taking care of devotees. And at the same time, we should always not leave any opportunity that come to us, whether when it comes to welcoming any Vaishnavas, or giving shelter to some of the Vaishnavas, especially the visiting Vaishnavas, they come. We should always come forward and open our homes, because at that time is the real test where it shows that it's really my home or it's Krishna's home. Because if it's Krishna's home, then definitely all the Vaishnavas are more than welcome. Even if we are put into some uncomfortable situation, still, we should think that other Vaishnavas who are coming should be comfortable. So to that degree, we should open our home for satsangs, for Vaishnavas, for any kind of bhakti rickshaw programs, any kind of satsang related or any kind of spiritual related talks. We should always try to open our homes, because that's the real test that yes, this is not my home, this is Krishna's home. And when we have that, then definitely, whatever our earning is, we are spending on Krishna, we are spending on Vaishnavas. So we should not lose that kind of opportunity. So anyway, coming back to Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, so Rupa Goswami, he basically, whatever money he had accumulated in Bengal, he divided it among the relatives and the brahmanas and the temples. Thus, after finishing all this, he then finally returned to Vrindavan. And then when he came to Vrindavan, after Sanatana Goswami has already reached to Vrindavan, the two brothers, they met and they stayed there and they executed all the instructions that was given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Prabhupada beautiful writes that, this is how the mood of a devotee is, that the devotee follow the instructions of a spiritual master. And then Prabhupada quotes this, that, this is how Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami were given this title of Goswami. Okay. So this Goswami title is not some title which is inherited through any kind of designation. Rather, this Goswami title is given for a person who has literally controlled one's senses. Go means cows, but go also means senses, right? So one who has control, who has become Swami of one's own senses is real Goswami. And that's what Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami were. They have literally controlled all their senses. They have full control on they have become Swami of the master of their senses. And therefore, they were given this title of Goswami. And therefore, Sri Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami, they became the genuine Goswamis, and they dedicated their whole life into the service of their Lord, of the Supreme Lord. And also they followed the instructions of their spiritual master. And this is how what the learning that we have is that we also should follow the instructions of our spiritual master. Every day we recite that third offense, to be avoided is to disobey the orders of our spiritual master. It's the simplest easy to say because it's just a one-line offense, that's Guru Avagya, but it has a very deep meaning, because once we have offended our spiritual master, our spiritual life is totally doomed. And now this also depends that what kind of instructions that comes from a spiritual master, because sometimes it happens that spiritual master instructs one-to-one to any of his disciples. That's truly a very fortunate condition, that if our spiritual master instructs, some personal instructions are given one-to-one to us, then definitely we should try to execute and follow the instructions. But sometimes, there are no formally one-to-one personal instructions given to us. At that time, we should not make any excuse that my spiritual master didn't instruct me anything personally, so I have nothing to do it. Rather, we should, make a note of it, that all the classes, all the retreats, all the seminars that has been given by my spiritual master, we should take it personally. That though it is being given in public, but it is personally for my upliftment, for my benefit. In that mood, we should hear our spiritual master's classes. That all these instructions, what my spiritual master is saying, what my Gurudev is saying, is for me. This class is totally for me, and I should take out, make a note of it, that all the instructions that is being given, because the classes that is being given by self-realized souls, by the spiritual masters, are, they are instructive classes. There is some kind of instructions embedded in those classes. Now it's up to the disciple, that how much disciple is first class, that the disciple takes out, those embedded instructions from those classes and make a note of it and take it as a personal instruction. So there is no excuse. We cannot say that, my spiritual master didn't give any personal instruction or one-to-one instruction to me, so I'm excused. No. Our spiritual masters, through their various classes, give lots of instructions. It's up to us now that how first-class disciple we are, that we are able to take out those instructions and, try to follow. But it is very, very important, because Guru Avagya is also one of the aparad through which, our spiritual life doesn't progress. So we should be very, very careful. Okay. Then moving forward, then, what did they do? That is the text number 218. Nana Shastrayani Lupta Tirtha Udharila Vrindavane Krishna Seva Prakasha Karila. So both the brothers, Sanatan Goswami and Rupa Goswami, they followed their instructions that is being given by their spiritual master and by the Lord himself, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And what did they do is that they collected Nana Shastra, various revealed scriptures they collected. And from those scriptures, getting all kind of evidence from those scriptures, they excavated all the lost sites of pilgrimage. Lupta Tirtha Udharila. All the places where Krishna and Srimati Radharani performed their intimate pastimes, all those tirthas, all those places were excavated, were brought into place by Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. And then Krishna Seva Prakasha Karila, and they also established various places, various temples where people can come and worship the Supreme Lord in Vrindavan. So they simply followed these instructions that was given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he describes the various works that is being given, that were being done by Sanatan Goswami and Rupa Goswami. So from now onwards, I'll be simply reading from Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, because it's the description of various books that were written by Sanatan Goswami and Rupa Goswami. So first he describes about Sanatan Goswami, that how Sri Sanatan Goswami compiled Brihad Bhagavatamrita. And we know, we have read this whole Brihad Bhagavatamrita by the blessings and mercy of Her Grace Preeti Vilasini Mataji. So in more than 45 sessions, she completed the whole 3-volume book of Brihad Bhagavatamrita, such a beautiful book. And from this book, one can understand who the devotee is. We know that how Narad Muni was in search of a pure devotee, and finally he came to the conclusion that the gopis of Vrindavan are the real bhaktas, are the real devotee of the Supreme Lord. And then in also that book described that what is the process of devotional service, where it was being established that only the chanting of Mahamantra is the process of devotional service. 99% of a devotional service depends upon the chanting. How Gop Kumara, by chanting, he reached his eternal destination. And finally, then who is Krishna, who is the supreme absolute truth. So this Brihad Bhagavatamrita book written by Srila Sanatana Goswami is also the condensed form of the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. We have already discussed this. Then Srila Sanatana Goswami also wrote a commentary on the 10th canto, specifically the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is also known as a Dashana Tippani. Dashama means 10th and Tippani means the commentary on the 10th canto. And which we can understand the transcendental pastimes and ecstatic love of Krishna. So that is what it is being described, and Sanatana Goswami wrote on that 10th canto the whole description, the whole commentary. And that Dashama Tippani is also known as Vaishnava Toshani, which is also the same, it's the another name of that same, which is the description, the summarization of the whole 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Then Sanatana Goswami wrote Haribhakti Vilas, which we can understand the proper behavior of a devotee and how the devotee should behave and what's the duty of a Vaishnava, what are the characteristics that a Vaishnava should develop. So Haribhakti Vilas also, this is being written by Sanatana Goswami. And then that's what, he mentions. Then also he wrote that how Sanatana Goswami has also compiled many other books, and they were, he also wrote one of the book that describes the various deities of Vrindavan, and especially Sanatana Goswami. We all know that, Sanatana Goswami actually wrote another book, which is Krishna Lila Stava, that also describes about the pastimes of Krishna and Srimati Radharani. So what I was telling that is Sanatana Goswami, we all know that our whole philosophy, our whole Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy revolves around these 3 aspects, that is Sambandha Tattva, Abhidaya Tattva, and Prayojana Tattva. So Sambandha Tattva is to establish our relationship with that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who Krishna is. And then after understanding who Krishna is, we have to try to develop the relationship with Krishna. So what all activities we do, that is the process of devotional service, is through which we can establish that sambandha with that Supreme Lord. And that process is Abhidaya. And finally, coming on to the ultimate goal, that why and for what we are performing all these kinds of devotional service is to attain the supreme love, Krishna Prema, and to attain the love of Godhead is what is our Prayojana Tattva. So Sambandha Tattva is by the Sambandha Acharya is Sanatana Goswami, because Sanatana Goswami is one who helps us to establish that relationship. Through his various works, we understand that how we can establish that sambandha, that relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore our Acharya, the Sambandha Acharya is Sanatana Goswami, and the deities are of Sambandha deities are Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohanji. So that we have to understand. And secondly, our Abhidaya Acharya is Srila Rupa Goswami, and deities are Shri Shri Radha Govind Devji, through which we can seek their blessings and guidance, and we can attain that devotional service. The various ways through which we can establish that sambandha with our dear Lord Shri Krishna. And finally, our Prayojana Acharya is Srila Dasa Goswami, who is also known as the Raghunath Das Goswami. But we always say him as Dasa Goswami. There are 2 Raghunaths, right? There are Raghunath Das Goswami and Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. So Raghunath Das Goswami is our Prayojana Acharya, who helps us to understand the ultimate goal of our devotional service, which is to attain Krishna Prema. And the deities are Shri Shri Radha Gopinathji. And all these three, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohanji, Shri Shri Radha Govind Devji, and Shri Shri Radha Gopinathji, they all together is what is Shri Shri Radha Raman Devji. And that is what, when we chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and we say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that Rama that we say is what we are referring to, Shri Shri Radhika Raman, because Shri Shri Radhika Raman is what tells us, is like the whole Govind Devji, Madan Mohanji, and Gopinathji, they together reside in Radha Raman, where we get the whole Vaishnava philosophy of our Sambandha Gyan, of our Abhidhya Gyan, and our Prayojana Gyan. So this is just on the side note. I just want to tell that even Sanatan Goswami, he wrote many, many books describing the several deities of Vrindavan, and especially Madan Mohanji. And Rupa Goswami, then this is what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, describes about Sanatan Goswami, but then he said about Rupa Goswami, that Rupa Goswami also wrote many famous books. One of the famous work of Rupa Goswami is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that is nectar of devotion. And from that we can understand the real essence of devotional service, and the transcendental mellow that we can derive from that service. And then, yes, his books are Ujjvala Nilamani, that it describes the loving affairs of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. Then we have read in the previous chapter the whole, when Rupa Goswami's second visit to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this Antya Lila also, we read, and then we know that it was all about Vidagdha Madhava and Lalita Madhava, where Vidagdha Madhava and Lalita Madhava, they describe about Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan and outside Vrindavan. So that's a beautiful Nataka drama that he wrote on Krishna and Srimati Radharani. And then we know that he has another very famous book that he wrote. It's a small book, but it describes one pastime of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna, that is a Dan Kheli Kaumudi, that he wrote. And Dan Kheli Kaumudi is actually, Dan means tax or charity, and Kaumudi means the moonlight. Why this Dan Kheli pastime is referred to as Dan Kheli Kaumudi. Kaumudi means moonlight. So this pastime is basically which causes delight, and a very soothing coolness has been provided by the moon. Because this pastime is a very, very humorous pastime that Rupa Goswami wrote in that Dan Kheli Kaumudi. I don't know whether we have a time, but I want to move forward. And if we have time, then we can discuss more about this beautiful pastime and what actually happens, in this Dan Kheli Kaumudi book. And to this, Prabhupada writes the commentary that, like as this verse 226 says, Dan Kheli Kaumudi Adi Laksha Grantha Kaila, Sai Sabha Granthe Vrajera Rasa Vicharila. That Srila Rupa Goswami compiled 100,000 verses, beginning with the book Dan Kheli Kaumudi. And in all these scriptures, he elaborately explained the transcendental mellows of the activities of Vrindavan. So Prabhupada says that ek laksha means 1 lakh. So we should not confuse ourselves saying that Rupa Goswami wrote 1 lakh books, 100,000 books. No, that's not true. He wrote 100,000 verses in various books. So that's what we have to understand. And various books, we know that, like he wrote Stavamala, and then he wrote Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, then Dan Kheli. So he wrote various, books on the pastimes of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. And, they are total are 100,000 verses, so Eka Laksha verses. Then he talks about another personality who is the son of Vallabha, that is Anupama. Remember, there are three brothers, right? Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, and the youngest was Anupama. And we read that pastime also, where Anupama left his body in Bengal while Rupa Goswami and Anupama were coming from Vrindavan to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So at Bengal, Anupama, unfortunately, he left his body. So his son was Srila Jiva Goswami. And so Jiva Goswami, he was a very, very learned scholar. And he also, after renouncing everything, he decided that I should also go to Vrindavan. And, for going to Vrindavan, he took permission from Sri Nityananda Prabhu. So he went and he took permission from Nityananda Prabhu that I also want to go to Vrindavan to both of my uncles. And Nityananda Prabhu said that, yes, your whole family, means both your uncles are in Vrindavan on the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I also instruct you that, yes, you can also go and stay there. And there Srila Jiva Goswami, under the guidance of Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, he stayed in Vrindavan and he wrote many books on devotional service. And he also expanded the work of the preaching of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we all know the famous Bhagavat Sandarbhas, the Shat Sandarbhas, were written by Srila Jiva Goswami, which is the essence of all scriptures. And from this book, one can obtain the conclusive understanding of devotional service and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So basically, the Shat Sandarbhas, Shat means 6, and Sandarbhas were written by Srila Jiva Goswami. So Shat Sandarbhas are also known as the Bhagavat Sandarbhas. And that gives us the exposition analysis of the essential message of the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavat Puran. So the essence of the whole Srimad Bhagavatam Puran were written by Srila Jiva Goswami in all the 6 Sandarbhas. So what are those 6 Sandarbhas? The first is the Tattva Sandarbha, then we have Bhagavat Sandarbha. So now we don't have to confuse ourselves that the second Sandarbha, which is also known as Bhagavat Sandarbhas, and all together the 6 Sandarbhas are also known as Bhagavat Sandarbhas. So, but we don't have to confuse ourselves. So that's why, for the sake of easiness, we say that there are Shat Sandarbhas, and among those Shat Sandarbhas are Tattva Sandarbhas, Bhagavat Sandarbhas, Paramatma Sandarbha, Krishna Sandarbha, Bhakti Sandarbha, and Preeti Sandarbha. So these are the 6 Sandarbhas that were written by Srila Jiva Goswami. So in Tattva Sandarbha, what he describes about the, conclusive philosophy of Shabda Praman, that how Shabda, or the divine form of the Supreme Lord, is the highest of all the scriptures, that is Bhagavat Puran, is the highest of understanding the supreme absolute truth. The Tattva, the essence of everything, the Tattva Vichara is being described in that Tattva Sandarbha. And in the second book, that is the Bhagavat Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami speaks about the Bhagavan, about his abode, about his associates. And then he demonstrates with conclusive evidence that Bhagavan is the complete and invisible absolute reality, and that all other manifestations are dependent on him and all are inferior to him. So Krishna is the supreme Bhagavan. Then in Paramatma Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami tells the 3 manifestations of Bhagavan. We all know that is the localized Paramatma form, the impersonal Brahman form, and finally the personalized Bhagavan form. Then he also describes the role of Maya, the external potency of the Supreme Lord. That is all being described in the Paramatma Sandarbha. Then Krishna Sandarbha, he shows that the Krishna is the original form of Bhagavan, and he is the object of loving devotional service. So he is the Ashraya Tattva. So then in the Bhakti Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami describes the path of devotion, that is, as the soul means to attain God realization. And finally, in Preeti Sandarbha, he analyzes the Prema Bhakti, that is devotional service in pure love of Godhead. And it shows that how the supreme goal of life for all the living beings. So these are the 6 sandarbhas, beautiful work of Srila Jiva Goswami. And then Kaviraj Goswami also wrote various other things that Jiva Goswami wrote, that is Gopala Champu. We know that Gopala Champu is the essence of all the Vedic literature, and this book, he wrote all the loving transactions and the pastimes of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. It's a very thick book. It's a very beautiful also, especially the pastimes of Govardhan, the other pastimes, you know, they are very beautifully mentioned in Gopala Champu. And then Shat Sandarbhas, yeah, we have already discussed. And, you know, in Shat Sandarbhas and all other books, Jiva Goswami wrote 400,000 verses. So for Rupa Goswami, he wrote 100,000 verses, and Jiva Goswami, he wrote 400,000 verses in all his books. And yeah, we have already described that when Srila Jiva Goswami wanted to go to Mathura, he first took permission from Nityananda Prabhu. And Nityananda Prabhu, he basically placed his feet on the head of Srila Jiva Goswami, and he embraced him and he gave him all the permission. Agya dila sikhara tumhi yaha vrindavane tumhara vamshe Prabhu diya chane se sthane. Lord Nityananda Prabhu said, yes, you go to Vrindavan. That place has already been awarded to your family, to your father and your uncles by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So you should immediately go there under their guidance. And, you know, so by the order of Nityananda Prabhu, he immediately went and he preached this whole bhakti cult. So this is what the whole chapter is about. And finally, in verse number 236, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami writes that Thina Guru Ara Raghunath Dasa Inha Sabara Charana Vandana Yanra Muni Dasa. He says that these 3, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami and Jiva Goswami, are my spiritual master, and so also is Raghunath Das Goswami. Therefore I offer all my prayers onto their lotus feet, because I am just their servant. And then Kaviraj Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that this is how I described the whole pastimes of Sanatan Goswami. And these characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are like sugar cane that one can chew to relish transcendental juice. Caitanya Caritamrta ehi ikshudanda sama. Ikshudanda means a stick of a sugar cane, exactly like a sugar cane. Charavana chari karite haya rasa asavadana means charavana karite, you have to chew. See how you can get the juice of sugarcane. Just by seeing or holding that stick, you will not get the juice of that sugarcane. So that sugarcane juice, if you really want to have, then you have to chew that sugarcane. And the more you chew, the more juice you will get. Right? So just to taste that juice, rasa asavadana, if you really want to taste that juice, you have to chew the sugarcane. So he is also saying that these all characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they are like sugarcane, right? So if you really want to relish those pastimes, you have to keep reading those pastimes, keep contemplating on those pastimes. And when you get some learning, some take home, that's the real juice you get from all these various pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he narrates all the activities, the nature, the characteristics, the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and by such glorification, one can establish that how the Lord pastimes are simultaneously, they are sweet, and they are spiritual, they are confidential, they are secret, they are sweet, they are beneficial also. They are so pleasing, and they are so inconceivable also. We cannot conceive those pastimes through our material minds. So this is one of the pastimes of removing Srila Sanatan Goswami from all his sores that was there in this body. So this whole pastime is such a sweet pastime, and it's inconceivable, it is uncommon. So all the pastimes are simultaneously sweet, simultaneously deep, simultaneously confidential. They are sweet, they are common, and they are also so pleasing. So therefore he says that all these are just like a sugar cane, and in order to relish those pastimes, we have to chew, we have to keep on reading and contemplating. And in the last verse, as usual, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ends by saying, Shri Rupa Raghunatha Padeyara Asa Caitanya Caritamrta Kahe Krishnadasa. Praying at the lotus feet of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Thus, we have ended the whole Untitled Chapter 4 about Sanatana Goswami's stay at Jagannath Puri with Supreme Lord, and then finally going to Vrindavan and following all the instructions of spiritual. Okay, so we'll stop here. I know it was a quick reading today because I was just going through verses. It's a simple verses, but it's always beneficial to go through among the association of all the like-minded devotees. So thank you all so much for your association. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, you said you would talk about Danakeli Kaumudi. Can you?
Yeah, actually, Danakeli Kaumudiki is a very sweet pastime. It's a very short, simple book, and that describes about how one time there was a yagya that was being arranged by Vasudev for the protection of Krishna and Balaram, and that yagya was being performed by Bhaguri Muni. So he was performing that yagya for the protection of Krishna and Balaram onto the pretext of Vasudev at Govind Kund. So there, when they all came to know, all the gopis, when they came to know that there was been yagya being arranged, so they all decided that they'll carry the pots of ghee, yogurt, what all necessary, milk, whatever necessary needed for the yagya. So they were carrying all these and they were heading towards Govind Kund. And Krishna also came to know that all the gopis are carrying their pots and, they are going towards Govind Kund. So it's basically, that place is known as a Sankhari Khor. Khor means the pathway, and Sankri means a narrow pathway. So it's a very narrow pathway from where, from Barsana, they cross this Govardhan hill and they come to that Govind Kund where this yagya was taking place. So it's a very, very narrow pathway that somehow even like I have never been to that, under the guidance of any Vaishnava. But yes, I came to know from Dinabandhu Prabhu that he used to take everybody to that Sankhari Khor, to Govind Kund. And that Sankhari Khor, he used to tell that it's just that only one person, you have to go through a line, you cannot go as a crowd because it's a Sankhari, it's a very narrow pathway. So this way, all the gopis were coming in line, holding their pots of various milk, butter, sweets, yogurt. And we all know Krishna, especially his friend Madhu Mangal, they are always, they always want to taste that nectar. So they all came in front of Srimati Radharani and Lalita Devi, Vishakha, all the gopis were there. And they all said that, we are the Krishna, basically. He said that I am here as a tax collector. You cannot cross this place. You have to pay the tax because I have been appointed by Kandarpa, that is Cupid, and I am Madan Mohana. I am the Supreme Lord and I have been appointed, and so I'm going to extract some taxes. So you all have to give us, you have to owe some taxes. So they said that we are just carrying these milk products. He said, okay, and fine, you can give the taxes in the form of these milk products, and whatever ghee, butter, yogurt you are carrying, you have to pay, because today we are not going to let you go. You must pay the tax. So this whole book describes the various pastime, the debate that happened between Srimati Radharani and Krishna, how Krishna was telling Madhu Mangal that you have to calculate that how much tax they have to give according to the beauty, and of course Srimati Radharani is the most beautiful, so she needs to pay the heaviest tax. And so they were just calculating And they were thinking that, they were telling, Krishna was telling to Madhumangal that you have to calculate, how much tax each gopi has to give, and then only we'll let them go. But just then, it's a drama, right? Because Rupa Goswami, he wrote mainly the dramas. So at that time, Nandamukhi came in and she said that, what's all discussion is all about? Because there was a huge debate going on between Srimati Radharani and Krishna about this tax, that Radharani was saying that we are not going to give you any tax because it's not the first time we are crossing, and Krishna was saying that no, today I am the tax collector and I'll collect the tax and I've been appointed, so you have to pay the tax. And at that time, Nandamukhi, she came in and she said that, okay, that today, they have to go for a yagya and they have to give all this. So tomorrow, same time, these gopis will come, and then they can pay you the relevant amount of taxes. But today you just let them go because there is a yagya which is being performed and they are taking everything for that yagya. So you all let them go today. And then all the, these boys said that, okay, yes, surely we can release them today, but next day, definitely you all going to come with the whole pots of all these sweet things that you are carrying, and you have to give the tax. So next day, hundreds of gopis came, and they came to the same route. And as soon as they arrived, Krishna also with few of his, because Krishna was having few of his cowherd friends, whereas the gopis, they were hundreds of gopis. So as soon as Krishna comes, all the gopis, they surrounded Krishna, and they all said that we know that you are the same Krishna and you are simply acting just to disturb the supreme queen of our Vrindavan, because she is Vrindavaneshwari. That's what they introduced Srimati Radharani, that she is Vrindavaneshwari. And she said, Lalita Devi and all, Vishakha Devi, they all said that your cows, they are grazing on our Vrindavan. Right? They are grazing on our Vrindavan. They are eating the grass of Vrindavan, and our Srimati Radharani is Vrindavaneshwari. So how come without taking his permission, your cows are grazing on the grass of Vrindavan? So you cowherd boys have been trampling this grass of Vrindavan for so many days. So instead of taking toll from us, you have to owe toll to us. And this way Krishna said, oh, I have nothing to pay. And then Gopi says, okay, if you have nothing to pay, then the only thing you can do is to submit to the lotus feet of our Srimati Radharani. And at that time, Krishna, he placed his head onto the feet of Srimati Radharani and accepted Srimati Radharani as Vrindavaneshwari. And Krishna, basically, he begged forgiveness from Srimati Radharani. So this is the whole tax pastimes that took place. And Rupa Goswami, in a very detailed fashion, as an act, as a drama, he wrote this whole Danakeli Kaumudi. And Raghunath Das Goswami also wrote a commentary on this Danakeli pastime, and his Dana Nirvantana Kunda, that's what his name is, because he wrote this commentary on that Danakeli Kaumudi, that pastime that was being narrated by Rupa Goswami. So this was it. So thank you all so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Caitanya Caritamrta ki jai.
Thank you so much, Mataji. So nice. First of all, I really liked the meaning of Kaumudi. It was very nice to know that it was actually the moonlight. And Jiva Goswami composing 4 lakh verses, 400,000 verses. I mean, I don't think even 4 lifetimes would suffice to read them. So he's definitely the greatest hero ever known. So it's so amazing. Thank you so much for talking about that. And I just have one silly question. So didn't Krishna argue that Yashoda is Rajeshwari? Vrindavaneshwari? Actually, the whole Vrindavan belongs to Nanda and Yashoda, right?
Yeah, there is a huge debate that goes on. Because Rupa Goswami describes in detail. Even Krishna, it's not easy for him to submit, right? Really, because he was all these gopis, he finally agreed and he submitted to.
Very nice. Very, very nice, Mataji. Such a beautiful class. It was so relishable. So nice to see. I mean, it just increases our gratefulness when we think about what all the acharyas have done for us. So it's a very beautiful section of this chapter. Thank you so much, Mataji, for all the efforts and putting it together. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. It was such a simple, I was simply reading through the whole Caitanya Caritamrta.
Yeah, the fourth chapter was pretty much like that, right? It was so easy to. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Kirtida Sundari Mataji. My humble obeisances to you. Can I add a little thing?
Mataji, you were in Vrindavan, you were in lockdown, you have so much, to say. Please go ahead.
See that the Sakri core, when we go, only you can put one foot, you cannot put 2 feet side by side. So you have to walk just one foot and then lift another foot and gradually, like, in front, like just one foot you can put. So it's with that much narrow. So that's why, and it takes a little time to pass through that.
That's where it's easy for Krishna to stop the gopis.
Yes. Very nice, very nice. Very nice, wonderful class. You very nicely explain everything. Thank you, Hare Krishna. It's just like going in front of our eyes, how they're taking place, all these past songs and everything. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Anything else?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Koti Koti Dandavat Pranam. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai. Explained so nicely, Mataji, the pastime. And especially Anupama is the father of Shiv Goswami, and he followed the order of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and staying in the Vrindavan Dham, and from staying with the Sanatan Goswami and Rup Goswami and Jiv Goswami. These all 6 Goswami are like a Mataji. They are teaching us spirituality, and they all are so sincere. And you explained so nicely about the Bhagavad Sandarbha and Bhagavad Purana, and there is a 6th part of Bhagavad Sambandha, that is Bhagavad Paramatma, Krishna, Bhakti and Priti Sandarbha. And you explained detail about the Bhagavad Sandarbha, spirituality, all the depends of him. And then the Paramatma, Supreme Personality of Lord is, Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Lord, and Krishna is the original form of Bhagavan, and Bhakti Sandarbha, part of devotional, and Priti Sandarbha, pure love of Godhead. And yes, Mataji, Kaviraj Krishna Das Goswami's spiritual book Gopal Champu is very big. We are not qualified to read, but we are learning little from you, and by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, they recognize also and making note also. Very naughty student, finally started to make note. And Ram Keli and Dan Keli pastime, Mataji, when you are explaining, no, it's come in our face, because so many times Radhanath Maharaj, Bhakti Charu Maharaj, then Dinabandhu Prabhu, then Radhanath Maharaj, Bhakti Charu Maharaj, Gopal Krishna Maharaj, then so many Maharaj, when they came in Vrindavan Dham, Mataji, this lila they will explain. And there is a Sakri Kor, is a very, very less, Mataji, space. Only one person is going. And yes, Mataji, everybody is saying Radhe, Radhe, Radha Rani is the Vrindavaneshwari Irani, and so nicely explained, Mataji. The tears came from the eyes, Mataji. And it's in Govind Kunda and Sakri Kor, all the pastime, Mataji. And Chikomatika Mataji also add so nicely, Mataji. Your last best student now learning little from you. Koti Koti Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai.
Gopika Mataji. Glories to your sincerity, with how much sincerity you listen each and every class. And yes, you summarized everything about all the sandarbhas and everything. Very nice. Glories to your listening, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Now started to make note, Mataji.
Yes, Radhanath Swami Maharaj, he writes very beautifully, he gives classes on this Dhanakeli comedy. And it's a very hilarious pastime, very humorous pastime. Yeah, if you all happen to get chance, please hear that class.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Bhagavan. Wonderful, wonderful class Mataji. I myself cannot see myself. Wonderful class Mataji. It is really like all the classes of Caitanya Caritamrta since Antya Lila has started. It is such nectarian, at times you just cry when you listen to those classes. And I don't know, like there are so many instances when I think when Kirtida Sundari Mataji was also giving the class. It just pierces the heart, and that is like so true that Srila Prabhupada has said it, that it is a postgraduate level study. But it is very like when you listen, you feel it is easy to understand, but when you really feel the depth of it, it is just like unbelievable how much you can go deep dive into it. And it is our great fortune that you all are taking so much of effort to bring this nectar to us. It is really like we are really grateful. At least I'm really grateful to all of you, because at every step you come to understand. Okay, like you are so shallow. You are so. It is so much deep. You have to still go in. We do not know still anything, and it is really nice, Mataji. Thank you so much for taking all the efforts for doing that. Mataji, I had a word query over here. Jiva Goswami, when he went to Vrindavan, so the pastime is after that, is it? When he tries to debate with
Yes.
it is after this, huh? Okay. Sure. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Nice to see you, Mataji. Hare.
And yes, Mataji, as you said, this is a PhD level. Even I thought that why Caitanya Caritamrta is always considered as a PhD level course, though it is very easy. At least for me, it's easy to understand than Srimad Bhagavatam, because Bhagavatam has so much of philosophy. But when we read, we can understand that, Bhagavatam teaches us, the basic thing about devotional service, but how to execute that devotional service, how the devotees are executing and following Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's so hard. It's easy to say, easy to preach, but it's very difficult to practice. That's why it is known as the PhD level, because it's very hard when it comes to our practical thing. How many of, I don't know about others, but me, it's easy that I take the instructions from the classes of my Gurudev, but how many times I'm really taking a note of those instructions and, really following those instructions. So that's why it is said it's really a PhD level when it comes to practice. And yes, Mataji, that's true that, don't think that we are on some high level that we are eligible to give classes on Caitanya Caritamrta. No, I don't even think so to that qualified. But trust me, by preparing those classes, at least it's an eye-opening for myself. It looks as it is, when the moderator, he or she rather, I know, she spotlight your video. So all the time you are seeing yourself, So when you're seeing yourself means you are seeing this whole class to your own self. So that really helps, that whatever I'm speaking is speaking for my own self, so that I may be purified and I may get those learnings. Otherwise, it's very hard, but very hard to understand Caitanya Caritamrta.
Such beautiful realization, Mataji. So nice, so nice. I remember the very first time when earlier when you were coming, you did not want to come on video. But But this realization is really so wonderful that you are preaching to yourself. Very nice, Mataji.
Not a realization for me, it's a material drawback, I should say, because at that time it was too much going to YouTube and then doing something, but Zoom is okay. It's easy for me to operate. I accept it.
Nice, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Hari Bol.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you all so much. If there is nothing, then Shyama Supriya Mataji.
Mataji, sing something for all of us. Please, Mataji. ऐसे नहीं जाने देंगे हम आपको पूरा जूस सुगर किन का निकाल के जाने देंगे.
Okay. I don't know. What should I sing?
Whatever you like, Mataji.
I seriously don't know any suggestion.
Mataji, can you sing Vibhavari session?
Oh, Vibhavari session. Okay. Oh.
Mataji, can you sing Vibhavari session?
No. Okay. Vibhavari लोक प्रवेशा निद्रा छड़ी उठो जीवा बोलो हरि हरि मुकुंद मुरारी राम कृष्ण हयग्रीवा नरसिंह वामन श्रीमधुसूदन ब्रजेंद्र नंदन श्यामा पूतन घातन कैतव सातन जय दशरथी रामा यशोदा दुलाला गोविंद गोपाल वृंदावन पुरंदरा गोपी प्रिया जना राधिका रमण भुवन सुंदर पारा रावण तकरा मखन तस्करा गोपी जना वस्त्रहारी ब्रजेरा राखला गोपा वृंदापला चित्ता हरि वंशीधारी योगेंद्र बंदन श्री नंदनंदन ब्रज जना भयहारी नवीन नीरद रूप मनोहर मोहन बंसी बिहारी यशोदानंदन कंसनिसूदन निकुंज रास विलासी कदम्ब कानन रस परायण वृंदा विपिन निवासी आनंदवर्धन प्रेम निकेतन फूलसराजोजक कामा गोपान गना गना चित्त विनोदन समस्त गुण गण धामा जमुना जीवना केली परायण मनसा चंद्र चकोरा नाम सुधारसा गाओ कृष्ण यश राखो वचन मन मोरा नाम सुधारसा गाओ कृष्ण यश राखो वचन मन मोरा विभावरिशेषा लोकप्रवेशा निद्रा छड़ी उठो जीवा निद्रा छड़ी उठो जीवा
Hey, wow.
That's so beautiful. Very nice.
Very beautiful, Mata.
The fourth one, it says Brajara Rakhala Gova Vrindapala Chitta Hari Vamsi Bihari. So now, you know, my deities at home, their name is Vamsi Bihari. So I really love this.
Thank you, Mata.
So melodious, Mataji. Thank you so much. Okay, so Mataji, so with your permission and with all the devotees' permission, shall I end the call, Mataji?
Sure.
Okay, Mataji. So thank you so much, Mataji, once again for your time and giving this nectar, Mataji. Thank you so much. And thanks for the beautiful bhajan also, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So, Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindho Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Namachala Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Caitanya Caritamrta ki jai. Her Grace Kirtida Sundari Mataji ki jai.
Jai. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you so much,
Krishna.
Mataji.
Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
This is Balavrinda.
Yeah, I know Balavrinda.
Mataji, thank you for nice, beautiful singing. I like one point that you. I want to say something.
Oh, very nice, Linda.
You said.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.